That is a nice set. Is that a real? What the? God, this is so good. What the? I see. Okay. Well, VR headset's still doing really well for my steampunk fantasy fashion line, but I think I'm going to do it like this because it makes it a little bit easier to connect with you guys on tonight's episode of NitroNights. What up, fam? It's me, Indiana Froskurinn Black. Clearly not Tom Deacon, but clearly back for another action-packed episode of NitroNights. Now, tonight we have all of your favorites, your Newsflash, your social showroom. But first, a very special guest. We have the GamerMuscle himself to flex his muscles all over the NitroNights set. And by that, I mean definitely in a call. But first, if you don't know who GamerMuscle is, we've got this video just for you.
With over 8 years of posts on YouTube, you can rightfully consider him a pioneer of sim racing content on the platform. However, James West didn't necessarily start out with just racing. From short comedy skit videos, to tutorials for every kind of game imaginable, to the creation of a song about pushing the pedal.
Push the pedal. Push the pedal. The bass is very large.
He's experimented with all kinds of content. GamerMuscle's love for devices with haptic feedback drove him over the line in the end and made him a mostly racing-focused creator. His love of racing goes as far as trying to drive everything he can get his hands on. This is how his most popular video was created, where he played Counter-Strike with a steering wheel. In the end, GamerMuscles is just a bald guy who really likes force feedback.
And I am super excited to introduce the man, the myth, the muscle, GamerMuscle. James, thank you so much for joining us. To be fair, that was written on my card, and I was like, I don't think I can come up with anything better than that for an intro. But how are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Thanks for having me along here.
So the thing is when I heard that I was going to be interviewing you and then seeing that video, I immediately went to your stream, went on the YouTubes and was like popping in and just seeing like the sheer variety of things that you have done. Like most people, they have kind of like a niche that they stick to. Like, I'm just a hardcore sim guy. I'm a hardcore flight simulator, hardcore CSGO, but you kind of hit everywhere all over the board. Do you think that you have a niche around like your personality and what you're putting on the content, or like where do you think you fit?
Well, I'm not sure. I think I fit my own little strange GamerMuscle box. It's mostly what if I think it's something that's fun or funny, and it's what I happen to be enjoying, and I'm like, oh, that'll make a good video. Then that's what I'll make. And then obviously it's kind of gone more in the direction of driving simulators, VR and flight sims. But yeah, there's been no real plan to it. It's just whatever I think will be funny and fun, really.
So taking like the strand from comedy, do you think that there's just something innately funny? Because I know like shows like Top Gear really resonate with a lot of driving fans. Their combination will always be from like humor. Is that kind of like a stepping stone or an inspiration for you when you're approaching like your videos? Or do you think it's just your natural personality, you like cars, and so this is where you landed?
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of the humor comes from driving simulators and get this kind of gaming where you're getting all this really expensive equipment and really spending too much time playing games. It is funny. It's just ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. So it can't be anything but funny. I find it kind of strange how some people do with a lot of the content deadpan serious, and it's like, but you're sat with a motor in your hands turning it on a computer screen. It's fun. It's fantastic. But, it is just innately funny. So I think that's how I end up covering it.
Fair. Now, I mean, like, no arguments there. It is pretty funny to, like, walk into someone's living room and you just like, oh, yes, that's a nice dining room, nice chair set. And then you look to the left, it's just like this giant arcade that's been set up. You're like, and I see that you also have good spending habits.
I think the worst thing is people get into it and it becomes normal. So it starts off as like, you've got a steering wheel, you put it on your desk and you're like, okay, I'm playing a game. It's kind of like a game controller. And then they're like, oh, I'd quite like to move it up. Yeah, so people don't realise from their perspective, they're like, oh, it's totally normal to have this ginormous arcade simulator motion rig in the sitting room. But, it isn't normal. It's a little bit strange, but it's good fun, so it's okay.
In terms of like the history of your rig, I know that you've done some modification on yours because you have like your racing simulators and your flight simulators, and now you kind of have this monstrous beast that I think I briefly got to look at when you moved your camera around. Monstrous beast. Like, how was it to modify that? How was it to build it out? Did it happen like all at once or suddenly? Or do you want to like add to it at all?
It's basically, it's just like a disease that keeps progressing and you can't stop it, if I'm honest. But yeah, no, it's with the cockpit that I use, which is one of the SimLab P1 cockpits. It's a T-slot cockpit, which for those of you who don't know, it's a type of rig that basically means you can add stuff to it easily and you can adjust things however you want. And so with the nature of what it is, it's like, well, I had the driving sim stuff on it and I was like, well, Microsoft Flight Sim's coming out. I want to get the flight sim stuff on it and I want to all use the same simulator. So it's kind of the needing to have something that I could do all the YouTube and all the live streaming from, whilst also allowing me to then play all the different types of games all on one simulator. And yeah, it's just progressed and built up that way. There was no plan to it. It just keep getting worse.
I dream of a future where IKEA is suddenly making modular furniture for sim racers and flight sims. Okay.
That'd be really handy. What would they call it? The Froskurinn.
It would have some sort of ridiculous Swedish name that I would probably offend a lot of people by trying to pronounce. But I have to move us along to our quickfire round before I get to any trouble there. So, quickfire round, it's really simple. We kind of briefly went over it, but basically I'm just going to ask you a question. You just have to answer as quickly as possible. It's supposed to be like instinctual, instantaneous reflex. Ready?
I'll try.
Okay.
Ready.
It's
Fingers on the button.
Really hard. Okay. Favorite racing game?
Oh, Assetto Corsa.
Okay. Favorite driver?
Robert Kubica.
Favorite car?
Oh, no, I don't know. I can't pick one.
Are you struggling?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's got to be, I don't know, rally, formula, I don't know.
Go
Favorite car.
GT series.
No, so the Ferrari F2004 car, or a Subaru Impreza, I don't know, something like that.
Okay, we'll take it. Personal hero of esports racing.
Oh, I don't have one. Sorry, esports racers. I don't have it. There's a mixture of them. Gregor Hutu, David Greco. Oh, they're all great. All of them are fantastic.
I'll take that as a cop-out. Best non-racing game to play with a wheel?
Well, obviously Counter-Strike Go, for sure.
How did you aim up?
I didn't. You just have to make the recoil on the gun pushes the mouse up automatically. So it requires
bunny hopping.
You
and
just hold
like
down the fire button and it goes up. Yeah, it's how it's meant to be played.
Perfect. And then the final one is driving on VR or on a screen.
But VR definitely. If you're driving for yourself, VR for fun, immersion, VR all the way. If you're live streaming on a screen, because you need to be able to see the chat room and everything clearly.
Well,
so I've ruined the quickfire for you there.
You managed to survive. Now that was James's answer on VR, but we're going to take a closer look at the future of potential racing games with this video here.
Virtual reality has been present in the world of gaming for the better part of this decade. Many developers have utilized the technology to improve immersion and give players an entirely new gaming experience. And what better place for immersion than a racing game? Digital racing includes all kinds of setups, from single monitor to triple screen. But many players have already started to explore the possibilities of VR headsets in sim racing. While they do require a noticeable amount of setup, the ability to incorporate VR can completely change the racing game experience. Developers have noticed the trend and also delivered on their part. Almost all prominent racing games now feature a VR option. So if you ever want to hop in and drive a lap of Sebring on iRacing while being completely immersed, the possibility is there. Even content creators such as Jimmy Broadbent and GamerMuscle have tried out virtual reality driving, and their audiences loved it. Up until now, VR headsets have mainly been used in games with high graphics requirements. That's because it seems that virtual reality and competitive don't mix too well. Sebastian Job explained it like this in episode 3 of NitroNights.
The reason I've not done it so far is because everyone, except for one person that I know, everyone has gotten slower with it, and they've gone back to what they had before, and they've gone faster. But there's a driver in the Porsche series that's using it called Brian, and he's incredibly fast, and he uses I think it's an Oculus Rift, so it might be worth a go.
Brian Lockwood is an American racer who competes in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. In his stream, he uses a VR headset and makes it look all too easy. However, he does seem to be the outlier. In terms of future virtual reality and sim racing, there's still some hurdles to be overcome. Some people still complain about motion sickness and dizziness, which is down to the rapid movement going on right in front of their eyes. But as games evolve, so will their technology, and we can all be sure we'll be hearing a lot more about VR headsets and immersion in sim racing in the future.
So, James, we've had a couple of guests on NitroNights so far, and there's kind of been this reoccurring discussion about what the next step is for simulation games, sim and esports racing in general. And I remember when we had Chris Hay, I asked him what he thought the future would be and if it was going to be something like VR. And he actually sat on the line that it was more about the scanning of the tracks and getting better feedback systems, and that he didn't think that VR was necessarily the way to go. Do you have a kind of like a preference on where you think this sport evolves?
From an esports perspective, I think the biggest evolution will be more in the competitive structure and the sort of like ELO ranking systems and the organization of the multiplayer in the game, and then how you integrate that with maybe like a real world tournament and how you structure everything for the esports sides of it. For the VR is more about, it's just, with driving simulators, VR is more just like a type of monitor, if you will, to play the simulators, which has its benefits and its drawbacks, like a small monitor would versus an ultra wide monitor. So I think there's a different ways that you could think about the way that things could go.
Do you have any preference on using, either a specific type of monitor or VR yourself? Have you found it easier? Because Sebastian was talking about how drivers would switch to VR and they'd immediately be slower outside of Brian that he mentioned. But do you think that's maybe a case that they switch, they don't get immediate gratification, so they just kind of go back instead of really sticking with the technology?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it depends, again, which perspective you're looking at it from. So if you're going from a raw esports perspective, there's so much repetition and just repeating the same inputs with a lot of the driving simulators when it comes to doing hot laps and just the competitive esports side of it, versus with VR, you're more focusing on the immersive and responsive side of driving. So if you have a driving simulator that allows you to really balance the cars properly on the limit, and it is more about awareness of all the vehicles around you and manipulating that car on that absolute limit, then that's where VR really pays off. But if you're playing a lot of the high esports, popular esports simulators, iRacing, for example, there's no real benefit to balancing the car on the limit. It's more about staying under the limit. And in that scenario, just having a good ultra-wide monitor is probably going to be the best solution. VR is more for raw immersion, I think, for most people, and when people are playing with a VR headset.
Do you have a particular game that you think is best suited for VR?
Well, I think any of the ones that run really well. So with VR, obviously, you have to have a fast computer. So the easier that the simulator runs well, the better it's also going to run in VR. And you don't need as fast a computer to run it. So for me, Assetto Corsa is really good in VR. iRacing is actually technically very good in VR. That's it really. iRacing and Assetto Corsa are the sort of top end sims for VR racing. Good performance, good clarity, and just you feel like you're sat in the car with them. It's absolutely phenomenal, really.
So, and obviously this is going to be like a harder question to answer, but I am very curious if you were using a simulation to actually just try to mimic as close as possible to training yourself for a real world driving experience, do you think VR is necessary at that point so that you can start, training yourself to look around or to look into turns, and that there's like a limitation to just doing an input style, high-end esports racing style? Yeah,
I think using a VR headset and how you approach a driving simulator with a VR headset ends up being far more analogous to how things operate in reality. I think the best example of that is when I've done stuff with real-world drivers. This is when VR was first starting to come out. And we'd put them in a rig, a motion rig with multi-screens, everything all set up, and they would drive on it, and they would miss the corners, they'd miss the brake points, and these are pro drivers. And then we put a VR headset on them. I think at the time it was the original Oculus Rift, and immediately they start driving and doing laps as if they were driving in real life. So it's obviously more analogous because it just clicks like that. But VR is obviously an evolving technology. There are still aspects of it in terms of comfort and all the other variables that go with it. But yeah, VR is the closest you can possibly get to actually feeling like you're in a real car. Bar maybe if you had one of those ginormous projector screen setups that you see with some of the Formula One teams.
I'm always just so obsessed with the line between like the esport and the reality. Like obviously coming from a MOBA League of Legends background as an esport, it's very different than an esport that could potentially have like real world qualifications. And if you can drive this race car in a game, that theoretically eventually you'd be able to drive this race car in real life. So I love this idea of kind of like bridging that gap through VR and actually like making esports athletes traditional athletes or closer to traditional athletes. So thank you for answering that. Now, we are going to move to our social showroom. Now, here's where we don't have to be as serious. We can lighten up a little bit. You should be able to see some...
Oh, serious?
Serious, I know. We can see some tweets here. And I believe the first one is actually from Overtake GG. And I don't know if you've seen this meme or this format going around. It basically asks the 4 titles that you spend the most time on. We have Dota 2, PUBG, Need for Speed Underground, and Hearthstone, which I just have to say, come on, guys. Like, really? Those are the titles? Do you have 4 titles that you think you spend the most time in?
Most time, Assetto Corsa, Rocket League, Counter-Strike Go. Hell Let Loose. I spend a lot of time on. It's a World War II simulator shooter.
There's a very eclectic background.
Yeah. Well, you got to mix things up. Recently Microsoft Flight Sim. I've already ruined your format there. It's supposed to be 4 things. I like playing lots of everything. I don't like just sticking on one title.
I keep thinking that I'm going to open up the flight simulator, and then I'm like, how many hours do I want to lose to this? Okay. Do you have a preference on, you seem like a big PC guy, obviously sitting on your rig, but if you had to choose a console, the PS5 or the Xbox?
Oh, that's a hard one. I mean, the PlayStation 5, I think, has the better exclusives. Things if you've got a PC, there's no point in having the Xbox because a lot of the games are now on the PC due to the direction Microsoft are going. So for games console, I think I'd go with at the next gen. I think I'd go for PlayStation 5. And interestingly, the haptics on the controllers are really interesting. I think on the PlayStation 5 and the new controllers, so that excites me.
Hear all about the Rumble feature, even though Xbox like literally bought Bethesda and was like, if you want to play any of these games again, you must come to us.
Yeah, well, I think Sony's the way to go.
Okay. Finally, we have a gallery of creators. Now, you can see some of the creators. We already talked about Chris Hay earlier on. Do you have anyone that you would want to add to this list or give a shout out to?
Well, can you take Jade off that picture? Get rid of Jade. And gallery of creators. Who should put on there? Is Jimmy on there? You've got to have Broadbent in there somewhere.
Yeah. Speaking of, I actually think he's on our final tweet.
Oh, okay. There you go. And who else? Random call sign. Ricardo Claro. There's quite a lot of new sim racing YouTubers as well that are starting to pop up. So there's lots of, if you're looking for sim racing content, you're like, I don't like that bold git. You could just go on YouTube. There's so many people that will accommodate different interests and different approaches to sim racing, which I think it's really nice. Actually, it's one of the big changes that I think has happened in the last 2 or so years in the sort of sim racing scene with its growth.
I mean, I agree. I think it's just absolutely exploded. Our final tweet is Jamie Broadbent doing the VCO Pro Sim series. So just some promotion and shout out there. Small video. Remember, guys, I believe that we retweeted this at overtake_GG. Be sure to add us. Use the hashtag NitroNights to get in on any of these conversations, which now leads to our final challenge. Have you played Trackmania before?
I have. I was a huge fan of the original Nadio Trackmania, like the first Trackmania, and then I played Stadium for a while. Yeah, I have played it quite a bit in the past, but the last sort of few years I dropped out of it.
Well, this is perfect then, because now I can hold you to a much higher standard, because we get to put you through the hot lap, and essentially all you have to do is beat Tom Deacon's time. I don't care if you beat anyone else, as long as you beat Tom's time, and it's 1:37. So let's go ahead. Welcome to Hot Lap. If you don't know what Hot Lap is, it's Trackmania and finding the fastest lap possible, otherwise known as the Hot Lap. You have 3 minutes, James, to get your best time. Now, some of the best times include around 57 seconds, so if you're lucky, that means you'll maybe get 3 attempts at this. But reminder, you just need to beat Tom's time, which is 1:37, which frankly should be very easy to do. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Perfect. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, again, when I saw this course, I was like, they always gave me the harder course when I tried out on Trackmania. This looks much easier. And he's off. Have you played Trackmania before?
Okay, we'll restart that one.
Okay, off to a good start then. Oh.
Oh.
Oh no, it's not going well.
It's not going. Am I meant to be going around to the left here or up the top?
I think you just need to be brave and like just really hold down the gas, try to keep the traction there.
Okay, we're going to do a whole... The first person never to complete a lap.
Oh no.
I got this, don't worry. I've played this so many times. It's,
Yeah, I think you need to take it wide and then cut in real. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Oh no, there's just too much gravity.
Okay.
Come on.
Take it wide, then cut across the H.
That's
Oh.
it. That's absolutely
Okay.
dreamlike.
That only took about 30 seconds. So, okay, S
How long
curve.
does it take to do a... Gee, why is there cigarettes on the track?
That was nice. Good S curves.
Whoa, now we're doing loop-the-loops. Okay. Is this the way Formula One's going to make it get higher viewership?
This is actually what they're planning on doing, but they also haven't figured out
the-
the H turn.
Preview of the London track that they plan to unveil.
Here's the thing, though. The rest of the course, you're doing great.
Oh, we got this. Robert Kubica using the corners here. Pure rally, Formula One cross drive.
Look at this guy. He's like Senna through these turns.
Slow motion, Matrix, bullet time. Turbo, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. Okay. Whoa, okay. Do I go again?
Yes, I believe you have time for one more with that lap time, but good luck. You already had a pretty impressive
yes,
time.
That's not happening, is it? One last attempt.
Currently with that race time, you'd be fourth on the lead. Oh,
yes!
Oh my God.
Calculated. All right, ignore the cigarettes. They're just there as a distraction. Oh, Christ, okay.
Okay,
Loop-de-loop.
really impressed there. If you shave off a second, you'll basically move into second.
Go.
Okay, he
You see
does a
the
good
timer
job
running down.
making sure that he's maintaining traction through this section of the course. Very important for top speed, yes.
It's Tarquini. Oh, it's Murray Walker there, just using him in my head as...
Oh, 10, 11. Hit the boost, hit the boost.
Is it? Will he cross the line? No! Yes!
By the hair of his chinny chin chin. You actually just made second. I'm very impressed.
Oh! Out of 2 people.
Yeah, with a fastest lap of 57 seconds, you've just smashed Ben and Tom and Mac all the way down. You are now second on the leaderboard.
Yes. That's I'm proud of myself.
Is there?
I'll
Would
have
you
a
like
cup
to
of
give
tea
like
to celebrate.
an acceptance speech? Anyone you'd like to thank right now?
I don't know. No, there's no. I'd like to thank my family for getting me to where I am here in Trackmania. Mm-hmm. That's yes. Who do you thank for Trackmania result? And surely it's an insult to thank someone for you being good at Trackmania.
It's impressive. Well,
I'd like to thank you for spurring me on through that. It really helped.
I will take the I'll take the moral high ground and the emotional support. Thank you so much, James, for joining us. Do you have any last final words that you'd like to say as we kind of send you off into the void and I continue the show?
Hang on, send me off into the void. It's like I've died and you're ejecting me out the escape pod or something.
It's basically Among Us now. You are the imposter.
Oh, okay. Thanks for having me along. Appreciate your time and having me here. And I've enjoyed chatting with you. It's good. Enjoyed coming second. It's great. Thank you.
Everyone wave. Goodbye, James. Thank you so much. Now, while James is leaving us, I am not, because we still have our Newsflash to cover right after this. Welcome to Newsflash, where we cover all of the hottest racing news. Now, Le Mans Esports Super Final happened last week. The event happened over the whole week, which included 4 days of racing action. The participants competed in teams of 3 in both a pro and amateur division. Every day, the 2 worst teams were eliminated. And on the final day, on Saturday, only 3 teams were left standing in both divisions. Williams, Red Bull, and Lazarus in the pro, Hairpin Heroes, LM Squad, and Hot Lappers in the pro amateur division. The final day featured 3 races with some insanely close racing. In the end, Red Bull reigned supreme in the pro division. They cleaned house and already had a comfortable lead going into the last race. The team brought home the $40,000 of prize money and the title of Le Mans Esports champion. Now, the pro AM was a little closer, with only 4 points separating the teams going into the final round. In the end, the consistency of the LM squad led them to the amateur crown. Round 3 of the 80AC GT Masters Esports brought the field to Hockenheim, where they battled for position in the championship. After round 2, the Polish racer Vinvinitsky was leader in points. Speaking of him, drama struck as the first lap saw the Williams teammates Vinvinitsky and Keithley collide. This left Keithley trailing behind in midfield, which he never recovered from. The race then was won by Erhan Yayovsky, who brought home a start-to-finish victory. He stayed 9 seconds clear of his opponents. Meanwhile, Vinitsky ended in position 6, which still leaves him at the top of the standings. The third town of the V10 R League at Nordschleife saw many exciting duels. At the top of them, both Porsche 24 Redline and Williams Esports have defeated their opponents. Porsche 24 Redline beat the third-place Red Bull 2-1. Now, with that win, Porsche secured a temporary first place with 1 point separating them from Williams. Williams didn't disappoint either. They got a quick 2-0 against Team Suzuki and were able to keep their undefeated record. Now on to September 24th, the real race has its grand final. This series has been competitive and relentless, and the final will surely be much of the same. You guys do not want to miss it under any circumstance. And speaking of miss, this is it. This is everything that we have come to. Now, that said, you may miss me next week, but do not worry. Tom Deacon will be right here to keep you guys some company, and I'll be following up the next week after that. So until then, stay safe, buckle up, and have a great one.